Now, I think we have all at some time or another related to a protagonist in a horror movie. Yes, maybe we would have done something differently. We certainly wouldn't have run up the stairs, that's for sure. But we can relate to them. However, have you ever found yourself relating to a horror movie antagonist? Maybe you have and you didn't even realize it. These are the top 5 horror movie antagonists you can relate to. Let's jump in. Coming in at number 5, we have Gilman from The Creature from the Black Lagoon. We never get to discuss The Creature from the Black Lagoon on this channel, but the time has finally come and I couldn't be happier about it. Released in 1954 and directed by Jack Arnold, this black and white monster movie tells the story of a scientific expedition which is carried out along the Amazon River. During this time, they discover Gilman, an amphibious humanoid creature known to locals as the Black Lagoon. The goal? To capture it. This is a case of humans reacting like to anything different to them, and sadly it's a fact of life. Gilman is just trying to live his life when scientists come along and invade his habitat. As anyone would be, he was curious, and when the visitors arrived he went out and greeted them, only to be met with violence and attack. So he is forced to defend himself, as you would. When another expedition arrives, Gilman falls in love with the only woman on board, Kay. He saves her life when she gets caught in the ship's line. What a guy. So what happens when he saves the life of a human? He is hunted down and locked in a cage. He truly is not a monster, this is just the case of humans being scared of the unknown. He harmed no one, yet they continue to attack him because he's different. Shame on you people, nothing's changed, you're all the same. Before we jump into number 4, make sure you hit that like button, it really helps us out a lot. In at number 4, we have Ghosts from Poltergeist. Before you start calling me crazy, just listen to me, hear my points, and then draw your own conclusion and opinion. Released in 1982 and directed by Tobe Hooper, Poltergeist follows a suburban family whose home is invaded by malevolent ghosts who abduct their daughter and suck her inside of the television into the spirit world. Now at first, things are fun and games, objects moving around the home innocently. However, things get dark pretty quickly, and once they do, the family up and runs. However, they decide to spend one more night in the home, which spells their undoing. Horror movies always need to be riddled with bad choices. This is one of them. Now, when it comes to the case of Poltergeist, we have humans encroaching on someone else's territory. Territory that should have been left well enough alone. But alas, humans are always screwing things up. We find out that when the real estate company built the home the family is living in, they moved a cemetery in order to build it. However, they told a little white lie and didn't move the cemetery, but instead they just moved the headstones, meaning the family home was built on dead bodies, in turn disturbing the spirits, resulting in them tormenting the home and the family. So put yourself in the shoes of these disturbed spirits. You would also torment the family living in a home above your burial site, wouldn't you? I certainly would. Coming in at number 3, Frankensteins Monster. Frankenstein. I mean, it's a tale as old as time at this point. We can all sympathize with Frankenstein simply because he didn't ask to be created, and he certainly doesn't want to be feared. It truly is a tragedy. Released in 1931 and directed by James Whale and based on Mary Shelley's 1818 novel Frankenstein, or the Modern Prometheus, Frankenstein follows Henry Frankenstein, an obsessed scientist who digs up corpses in order to assemble a living being from dead body parts, in turn creating Frankenstein's Monster, played by Boris Karloff. Now this classic story is a warning as to why man shouldn't play God, because you never know what the result might be. It's hard not to relate to Frankenstein's Monster though. Like I said, he didn't ask to be brought into this world, not to mention he has very little knowledge of his surroundings, and on top of that he has no idea how strong he truly is, or how to control it for that matter. He is feared by quite literally everyone he meets, but it's understandable as to why they fear him, considering the first person he meets who is genuinely nice to him is a little girl who he accidentally kills. But again, no one told him people didn't float. He is incredibly misunderstood and uninformed. Instead, he is just thrust into the world to be judged and afraid. Essentially, we're all thrust in the world to be judged. No one asked to be born, did they? In at number 2, Gary Citizen, Steve Hadley, the director, Cabin in the Woods. Now before you all start yelling at me, just hear me out. I have a point, and I trust by the end of this number you will understand where I'm coming from. I hope anyway, and if you don't, go make your own list. Released in 2011 and directed by Drew Goddard, The Cabin in the Woods is a horror comedy starring the likes of Kristen Connolly, Chris Hemsworth, and Jesse Williams, with the plot following a group of college friends who head to a remote cabin in the woods, where they ultimately fall victim to an underground organization who manipulate deadly events in order to kill off the group as an offering to the gods beneath the earth. Throughout, it is revealed that the backwoods zombies which are pitted on the group aren't the real villains of the movie, but instead the villains are the underground technicians technicians orchestrating the events, under the direction of the director, played by Sigourney Weaver. Absolute legend. Okay, now this is when you really need to hear me out, because I truly think we can relate to the technicians as well as the director. You just simply need to put yourself in their shoes. First and foremost, everyone has a job, and you have to work that job to the best of your abilities in order to keep that job. You gotta do what you gotta do. Everyone wants a 9 to 5, especially during a pandemic. Okay? Anyway, that's not my entire argument. The argument here is that there are quite literally gods beneath the earth, and if the ritual is not fulfilled every year, the entire world will be destroyed as the gods rise up. So either you sacrifice a few to save the world, or you don't and the entire world comes to an end. Unfortunately, we know how the movie ends, and it isn't great, as we see the hand of one of the gods rise up from beneath the surface. Game over. Just sacrifice yourself so the world can go on. But to be fair, the world doesn't deserve to go on, does it? Just go to Mars. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Carrie White from Carrie. Carrie White might be an obvious pick, but there is no way we can leave her off our list, considering she is perhaps the most relatable antagonist. However, she is perhaps more so an anti-hero than a villain. She didn't intend to be bad, but by the end of the movie, her hand is forced. Released in 1976 and directed by Brian De Palma, Carrie is an adaptation of Stephen King's 1974 novel of the same name. The movie stars Sissy Spacek as Carrie White, a 16-year-old girl who is routinely bullied at school and emotionally and physically tortured by her incredibly religious mother at home. She is incredibly sheltered from the outside world, with her mother not even educating her on puberty, resulting in even more ridicule at school. Which we witness at the beginning of the movie as Carrie begins to bleed and her classmates yell at her to plug it up, plug it up. However, what Carrie's classmates don't realize is that Carrie possesses telekinetic powers that she will eventually harness to seek revenge. Now, things went from bad to worse for innocent Carrie when one of the popular students, Tommy, asks her to prom, only for some of her classmates, including a young John Travolta, to go on and slaughter a pig and dump all of the blood over Carrie when she goes on stage to accept prom queen. Carrie becomes possessed by rage, with her mother's words echoing in her mind. "They're all gonna laugh at you." And that they do. They all laugh, and Carrie absolutely loses it, as she should, honestly. She is tormented for the entire movie, and finally she is reclaiming her power and fighting back against those who have hurt her. But in the process, she kills a lot of people, innocents included. Despite that, we can all relate to the broken girl who just wanted to be loved. However, no one gave her the time of day, and it was truly very, very sad. And then she dies at the end. Sucks. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any movie antagonists that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 best horror movie monsters in terrible movies, part 2. Christopher Mendes said, "When are we finally going to know what the rating on Rotten Tomatoes is for Lucy? The general consensus is that she is beautiful, dark, and terrifying in the most appealing of ways." Thank you, but I do feel like my rating would be low, and the general consensus would certainly be mixed. That's for sure. I'd be like a 54%. I'd give myself that. I mean, I rate myself higher, but just gauging public opinion, 54%. Kirk Morrison said, "Lucy, I loved the outtakes at the end. You make it look so easy. The outtakes show how hard you really work. By the way, lovely maroon sweater." Thank you very much. Yep, we all of us a lot. It happens. It's not that easy to read a teleprompter. You think it would be easy to read, but it's not. Reading can be challenging. John Paul said, "Hope you go home soon, Lucy. Make yourself some mulled wine in the meantime. Cheers." Well, I am gonna go home. My flight is booked. I'm going home. Yay! I'm excited. I get to go home. 4176 said, "Wait, isn't this part 2? Yes, I'm sorry. At the end of the part 2 video, I said, "Do you want a part 2? I really meant, "Do you want a part 3? Don't yell at me. A lot of you yelled at me for that. It's fine. This Bacon is Alive said, "Keep honing your niches. Every video better than the last is true." Well, thank you very much. I love horror. I talk about it every day. I watch every day. I keep honing it every day. AMB said, "You doing okay, Dark Queen? You seem off today or whenever this was filmed. You need more sacrifices." I always need more sacrifices. I do remember the day I filmed that video. I was in a very bad mood, as you could tell in the outtakes. I don't think I cracked a smile at all during that video. I was but I'm in a better mood now. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, and until next time, I'll see you later. Released in 1954 and directed by Jack Arnold, this black and white 3D monster movie tells the story 3D in 54? I'm gonna cut the 3D bit. Maybe I was on something. Maybe it was 3D. That can't be right. 1954? No, I've done something wrong. During this time, they discovered Jill Gilman. Idiot. I'm hot and I'm getting I'm hot and angry. We find out that just take a sec. Pause. Only for some of her classmates, including a young John Travolta, including? Does that make sense grammatically? I don't know. Nothing makes sense. Tommy,